Real quick, I want to introduce you to Mike. Mike is joining us here at AnimSchool to do a drawing lecture each week, which we're really super excited about it. He's been teaching drawing for over 20 years now. He's got a line of books called The Force. So those books are available on Amazon. One notable student of his is actually an Emmy winner for character design, and that's pretty impressive. His credits include projects such as Lion King. He's worked on titles such as BioShock for companies like EA, Nickelodeon Studios. He's taught at both DreamWorks and Pixar. He's actually taught in China. So he's got a lot of experience under his belt, not only doing the work and demonstrating his ability to produce work, but at the same time instructing and teaching other people how to do the same thing. And that's very impressive because there are some people that have the talent but lack the ability to explain how to get better. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mike.
So welcome everyone for this first class at AnimSchool. So one of the things I really want to make clear to you guys, and then hopefully this will start spreading through the school, is my goal with you guys is not really only to teach you drawing, but I think where the most value actually will be is, again, you guys bringing your work in. That's where, I'll have the chance to really assist you the most. For a few reasons. First of all, I'll be able to see where each one of you is at in your abilities and what you're actually working on and what your sort of tastes and styles are in your work, and be able to actually, the sort of industry term is plussing it. So, my goal would be to try to plus your work. And we will talk about drawing, of course. We'll talk about force drawing and some of the tactics and techniques that I use when I'm working as a professional. And also, I'll be leveraging 20 plus years of teaching to hopefully have you understand what I'm talking about. So again, I highly, highly, highly recommend bringing your work in, and I think that's really going to support the success of this class at AnimSchool. So, tell your friends also that are going to the school, bring the work in. I want to be someone that all of you can come to with your work on these Monday nights when you've been working all week on your projects and you have questions that you need answered, and I'm going to be here to best answer them and, draw on top of them and make those answers as clear as possible as to why I'm coming up with the answers that I'm coming up with. So definitely bring them in. And let's start taking a look at some of your guys' work. I'm going to put a layer on top of this and basically add force to it. So I have this drawing here, and there's so many things to think about. And I'm going to be really crude here at the beginning just to make my point. But, I would be thinking about, okay, here's the model's body, this egg that I just drew. And this isn't normally how I draw. I'm doing this just to, like I said, to make a point. So I have the shape that I'm filling in here, this body, right? And what I want to know is, how is it possible that this egg shape, right, this mass, is off the ground by this far? How's that happening? That in itself all of a sudden starts changing the way I'm going to draw. It's going to change my process to going through this experience. So it's like, okay, wait a minute, the mass is up there. I understand it's because the model's sitting on her haunches, basically, on the balls of her feet. She's got her hand down on this box for balance, right? You could see that Dennis gave us this cube that she's standing on, so she's probably trying to balance herself. I would almost guarantee that Dennis and probably most of you wouldn't be going through this process. And that's probably one of the best things I can give you in these classes with me, is a new manner with which to see and to think than you do now. I have this model in front of me, and I'm not just going to make this about trying to sketch out the model and the model's placement. I'm going to try to figure out how this event that's in front of my face is happening. How is this happening? Why is it happening? And I'm going to try to explain it through my experience of drawing what I'm seeing. So while I'm drawing it, I'm like solving. If I were to draw this out, I have this blue mass, and what I understand, just as a human being and knowing basic physics, is there's a lot of stress, right, going down here on the bottom of the hamstring. And then that stress goes up and out to the kneecaps, right? And you know this because you're a human being. It's like, man, I know that if I were taking this pose for 2 minutes or 5 minutes and then I got up, I'd be slightly lightheaded because actually I'd be pinching all the blood in my legs, right, and sitting in this sort of umpire's position. And my legs would be a little achy from sitting like this. And I'm thinking about that as I'm drawing it. There's all this force going down this way because of gravity, right? And her legs are supporting this mass. That stress is on the bottom of the hamstrings and the butt, up the thigh to the knee where it's squashed, right? It's like, it's going like this. It goes up to the thigh, and then it's almost like a hairpin, right? This is one big curve that's squeezing all the way from, let's say, A to B, right? It's like squeezing around, and then there'd be stress here in the heel. There'd be stress on the top of the foot. There'd be a lot of stress in the ball of the foot, right? A ton of stress right here because of all this weight in the blue egg, right, being supported by the legs. So the same thing would happen on the other side. We'd go here, we'd go into the heel, we'd go into the top of the foot, and then into the ball of the foot. So that's how the stuff's being supported. So what helps me here is it looks like there's a slight angle shift in the upper body. And to clarify force, I basically have to pick if a curve's going this way or going this way to make my point. I'm going to go this way. Okay, I'm going to say the upper body's arc is mostly this way. And it's going into this shoulder, and then it's going down this arm, and then it's going into this hand. All right, so now I've come from the legs, through the hip structure up into the upper body, and then finally down into the hand. And then this one is pushed forward, right there. And then it's going to sweep up almost like the legs. It's like a pinch, right? It goes from the outside to the outside and then down. And this is also there, if you take this pose yourself, it's there as like a support bracket relative to the other arm, and then the weight that the legs are basically suspending in the upper body. And then last but not least, we have the head, right? So it's like I have this big purple curve here, and then the head is like this really elegant rhythm right against the side of the body. If we take away the bottom drawing now, what we have here in these different colors is a schematic of how the forces of this pose actually work. See, and that is huge. That is the differentiator in what I teach when it comes to drawing, if it comes to storyboarding, animation, composition, is this sort of problem solving process. It's like I really want to get down to what is supposed to be going on. If we look at that versus this drawing, and I'm just making it up, right? I didn't have the model in front of me. I'm sort of leaning on my experience, my teaching experience and drawing experience to look at Dennis's, and he gave me enough information, fortunately, for me to come up with my analysis to see, okay, this person is posed like this, but they're doing this, right? And that's the big change. So what force allows me to do is problem solve. It's me really trying to figure out what's going on. Hopefully in my class, you're going to learn how to draw better. But on top of that, I'm hoping that what I start sharing with you again is thought process, and that leads to how you're animating and how you're dealing with the assignments that are given to you at the school.